Hello, today we're going to learn about finding trig exact values using radians. Now, one really important thing for today's lesson is knowing how to do these um, division problems. 180 divided by 6 is, you can just do 18 divided by 6, which is 30, or 3 and then 30. 180 divided by 3 will be 60, and 180 divided by 4 is 45. Now that's pretty crucial for figuring out some things in this unit, so make sure you have all of those three memorized. Now, if I convert these degrees to radians, let's start over here with 180, because 180 is the same as pi. So if I go to 90 degrees, that's pi over 2, because that's half of the way to pi. If I want to cut that in half, I can get 45, which would be pi over 4. Now 60 degrees is 180 divided by 3. We learned that. And so this is going to be pi over 3. Now if I want to find the radian measures for our special angles here, I take from 0 to pi and I divide it into 4 equal sections. The first section is pi over 4. The second section is 2 pi's over 4, which is just pi over 2. The third section is 3 pi over 4. And the fourth one, I color in 4 pi's, so that's pi. Now, if I want to keep going and I color this one, I'm past 1 pi, and I'm past it by 1/4, so that's 5 pi's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pi's out of 4. This one would be 6 pi's out of 4, which is 3 pi over 2. This next pi would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pi's out of 4. And then the last one would be 8 pi's out of 4, which is 2 pi, or 0. These would be coterminal angles. Now notice on the top, that black part is makes up 1 pi, and this red part makes up another pi. So going around a circle is 2 pi. There's 1 pi on top and 1 pi on the bottom. All right, for 30, 60, 90 triangles, we can take these things and divide it into, we divide from 0 to pi into 6 equal sections, because 180 divided by 6 would give us 30 degrees in each of these angles. All right, so since we divided into 6 equal sections, this is 1 over 6. This is 2 sections out of 6, which can reduce to pi over 3. 3 sections out of 6, which would be pi over 2. 4 sections out of 6, which is 2 pi over 3. 5 sections out of 6. And then finally 6 pi out of 6, which is pi. Now my second pi starts up here. So this would be 7 pi's, because I have 7 sections colored, out of 6. This would be 8 pi's out of 6, which can reduce to 4 pi over 3. Then I have a 9 pi over 6. Here's 9 of them are colored, which is 3 pi over 2. 10 pi over 6, which is 5 pi over 3. Here is 11 pi over 6. And again, this is 0 or 2 pi. So remember, we have 1 pi on top and another pi on bottom. I had a student a couple years ago who used to make the funny joke, there's 2 pi's and 1 pi. 1 pi being like, if we want to make a pie, if we bake a pie, there would be 2 pi radians to get around it. All right, now we really need to know our triangles. 30, 60, 90 triangles. If the hypotenuse is 2, the short side is 1. This side is root 3. Now if that hypotenuse turns to 1, this side turns to 1/2, and this side is root 3 over 2. Now if it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle, this side is 1, the other leg is 1, and the hypotenuse is root 2. But if I have my hypotenuse as 1, both these sides would be root 2 over 2. Now, I kind of skipped over how that works. Here we multiply by root 2 to get the hypotenuse. To go from the hypotenuse to the short side, what we're doing is dividing by root 2. So each of these is 1 over root 2. But when I rationalize that, this would be root 2 over root 4. And root 4 is 2. So root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. All right, yikes, look at this. This is what you should memorize. Remember, the x values are cosine, the y values are sine. So if I asked you what the cosine of 3 pi over 4 is, you go to 3 pi over 4, and your answer should be negative root 2 over 2. If I said, what's the sine of 7 pi over 4? Sine is your y value, and that also is negative root 2 over 2. So you can go around the circle and say cosine or sine, and if you have this whole thing memorized, you just know the answer. However, memorization, I think, is a long process, and it's much easier and better to actually understand it. So if I wanted to find the sine of pi over 6, I divide from 0 to pi into 6 equal sections. And we color the first section here to get to pi over 6. Hopefully everybody knows that 180 divided by 6 is 30. So we can draw any 30, 60, 90 triangle. It's nice to do the triangle with a hypotenuse of 1 for sine and cosine. The opposite side would be a half. The adjacent side would be root 3 over 2. So the sine of pi over 6 would be 1 over 2, 1 half over 1, which is just 1 half. All right, let's do tangent of pi over 4. We can take our function, divide it into 4 equal sections. Pi over 4 is the first one, because we're going 1/4 of the way to pi. And 180 divided by 4 is 45. So now if on tangent, it's nice to do 1, 1, root 2. So the tangent is going to be 1 over 1, which just equals 1. Sine of 5 pi over 4. This is pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4 we have to keep going for, 5 pi over 4. Now we're dividing it by 4 so that each of these is 45 degrees. So the sine, we can use the one for the hypotenuse. So the sine would be opposite over hypotenuse, which is negative root 2 over 2. All right, sine of 7 pi over 6. Same situation, now we're dividing it into 6 equal parts. And we go to the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7th will be the next one, 7 pi over 6. Now if this is 1, this would be negative 1 half and negative root 3 over 2. So the sine would be negative 1 half. Cosine of negative pi over 4. We go down here, because now instead of going this way pi over 4, we're going this way pi over 4. So if I do this section into 4, negative pi over 4 would be here. And this would be 45 degrees. So cosine would be root 2 over 2 over 1, which is just root 2 over 2. Tangent of 5 pi over 6. Divide this into 6 equal sections. Five pi over 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now for tangent, I love to use the 1, 2, root 3, and that 3 would be, root 3 would be negative. So tangent would be 1 over negative root 3, and we can rationalize this to be negative root 3 over 3. Tangent of 4 pi over 3. We draw this out. We divide it into 3 equal sections. That's what the denominator says. We go 1 pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3. 4 pi over 3 is down here. Now if we take 180 divided into 3's, this each would be 60's. So if that's a 60-degree angle, that would be the short side, hypotenuse, root 3. So the tangent would be negative root 3 over 1, which is negative over negative, is a positive root 3. Sine of negative 2 pi over 3. These things just keep on coming. We divide it into sections of 3 again, but now we're going in the opposite direction, so this would be negative pi over 3. Negative 2 pi over 3 would be over here. We draw it up, and sine, I like to use my 1 as a hypotenuse, and so sine would be negative root 3 over 2. Cosine of 11 pi over 6. So we divide them all into 6 sections. All right, keep going around the circle. And 11, we count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is 11 pi over 6. 6 divides it into 30s. So cosine, I feel comfortable using 1 as my hypotenuse. So this is just root 3 over 2. Cosine of pi over 2. So pi over 2, if this is pi, pi over 2 is cut in half. So it's right here. That coordinate is 0, 1. I remember the x is the cosine, the y is the sine. So that value is just 0. Tangent at pi. Now here, if we use that same method, it's over here, we have negative 1, 0. Now, we learned before that tangent is the sine over the cosine. So the sine of pi is 0. Cosine of pi is negative 1. So the tangent of pi will be 0, because 0 over negative 1 is 0. Cosine of 7 pi. So we have 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi, 7 pi. So 7 pi would be back over here, which would be the point negative 1, 0, which the cosine is the x, so that value would just be negative 1. Tangent of negative pi over 2. Negative pi over 2 means we go down this way, and the point on the unit circle here would be 0 and negative 1. So if I did the sine of negative pi over 2 over the cosine of negative pi over 2, this would be, sine would be negative 1 over 0, which is the cosine, which means this is undefined. Sine of negative pi over 3. Negative pi over 3, we divide this into 3 sections. This is the first one going in this direction. So this is going to be 60. 1. This is going to be negative root 3 over 2. So negative root 3 over 2 is our answer. One more slide. Cosine of 5 pi over 3. 5 pi over 3 happens to be in the same exact location because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a pretty bad drawing, but hopefully you'll see that this is 1/2 over 1. So the answer is 1/2. All right, the homework for tonight is a worksheet. Good luck.